amazing. It's like, what day? Saturday. You don't sound like Monday. This is really cool. I mean, especially when it's...
Where's the free food that we're going to get? That's why we're all here.
Fred, for you, we put it in the hall and down the corridor. Well, we got Saturday, so here's the hard question. What city is this? Are you sure? You're positive? It's like Saturday in Reno? Alright, cool. You guys have got it together. Now here's the deal. No, these are really important questions. For two reasons. Number one, you told me I'm in the right place. And number two, these two questions are on the test at the end of the program. They didn't tell you there was a test? Alright, well here's my deal for you. These are the only two questions on the test. So if you get these right, you get 100. Is that fair? And then afterwards, you can go tell all your friends that you got 100 on the mental test. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so delighted to see all of you. I really did think when they put the words LDW on this, there were probably going to be 4 or 6, maybe 8 people in the room. And so I started with 20 sets. And I did make another 20 sets of stuff, figuring, well, maybe we get a couple more people than that. So for those of you that don't have handouts yet, I've asked the staff to make more handouts for me. They will bring them. And if you could just sort of look and listen with your friends, we'll be fine.
Sorry to bring this up, Bob, but there are more than 50 people in the room right now, and the sign says capacity occupancy is 50. So we're going to have to kick some people out.
Okay, you know what? And we'll do that in an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, well that's good.
One of the things is when I started to put this together and when I wrote the title, you'll notice that the title says how to work with almost anybody. There are some exceptions to everything. So sociopaths and psychopaths, this stuff mostly isn't going to work or apply. There are just some cases in some places where it's not going to. But for the most part, if we understand a couple of things about the world around us and about the people around us, and perhaps about ourselves too, we can make a difference. Maybe not for them, but maybe for us. And if we can just make it a little better for us, if we can make it a little smoother, a little more comfortable for us, would that be okay?
That'd be great.
And that's part of what today is about. It's just kind of figuring out who they are and where they're coming from. And if we can do that, maybe we can make some differences there. Maybe we can make some differences for our group. But at the very least, we can make a difference for us. Because you know what? There are some people on the planet, and I don't get this, I don't understand it, but I'll bet all of you know a couple of people like this. There are some people on the planet that the only time they're happy is when they're miserable. I don't even begin to understand that, but the only time they're happy is when they're feeling bad. And it's even better if they can make you feel bad. Well, you know what? It's not your job to fix them, and it's not your job to make their life better. But what you can do is you can control how you react to them. You can control what you do and how it impacts on you. So let's find a couple of things that maybe make it a little easier, a little smoother for you. Let's find a couple of things that maybe you can take back and put to work in your world, in your life. Now, when we started to talk about it and do this for the AG, for an LDW, my theme and thought was simply for your local groups and what could we do to make our local group a little smoother or deal with one of those problems or those situations with that sort of thing. But my truth is this stuff is really about you, and if you take it back and you put it to work and you find a couple things that work for you that make sense, it'll make a difference to you across not just your local group, but your family. Oh, you've got some of that, no way. Okay. And maybe your workplace, maybe some of your employees, maybe some of the folks that you have to spend some time with, that you just have to spend. One of the things that I know, at least one of the things that I think, is that most of us have tried to make some changes in our life at one time or another. And we've tried to change some of the people around us too. But maybe this is part of the problem. Think about this for a second. When's the last time you really wanted to make a big change for you in your own life? And I don't know what that change might have been, to quit smoking, or to gain some weight, or... But think about what that one big thing was that was really important to you, and that you really wanted to do. And how hard was that? Or how easy was it? Was it easy or was it hard? Some of you it was easy because you just went, but for some of us this stuff is really hard too, right? And you really wanted to do it, and you were motivated to do it, and it was hard. Well, if it's hard for us to change us, when we really want to and we're motivated, how hard is it, you suppose, to change somebody else to be the way we want them to be when they're not motivated to do it? And some of this stuff is just so built in that we don't know we're doing it. They don't know they're doing it. It's just kind of part of the deal. So I want to try something with you. I want to try an experiment right here in the room and see what we can do. I'd like everybody to take your hands and put them together like this. Everybody make a fist one. Put your hands together. Got it? Okay, take apart. Come back together. Take apart. Come back together one more time. All right, now take them apart and put them together the other way. Oh, stop! That doesn't feel right, does it? No. Some of you are okay with it, but let's try it a different way. Fold your arms together across your chest. Got it? Everybody there? All right. Now do it the other way. Some of you can't even find it.
But you were.
Some things are just so built in. Some things are just so much a part of our life and a part of their life that we don't know what's happening, we don't know what's going on, and maybe we can't get anywhere until we figure it out a little bit better. What's going on and why is this happening? We're basics, we have to think about it.
Are you saying that change doesn't feel right? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is 50% of our population actively resists change, and for most of us, change is really, really hard, even when we want to do it. So if there's one message here, Fred, if there's one message overall, it is really this. We spend a lot of our time and our energy trying to change people's personalities. And you can't. We can't change our own personalities. We certainly can't change theirs. But what you might be able to do is you might be able to change their behavior. And that's what we're after. So if we can figure that out, then we can make a difference. We can make a difference for us. We can make a difference for them. And if I can really get a behavior change that I'm looking for, if I can get them to help me somehow and give me that behavior change, that's a win. But if all that really happens is I learn how to deal with it for me, and I learn how to not let it drive me out of my mind, let it not drive me crazy, a whole bunch of this is our reaction to what they're doing sometimes. So a couple of real simple tips of how we can get some of the folks around us to perhaps perform a little better or a little different or give us a better behavior or at a little bit higher level. The first one is there really is power in your expectations. So guess what? If you expect them to be a goof, if you expect them to be a screw up, if you expect them to be a problem, what do you think they're going to get? Of course they are. So what if we expected a little more? What if we expected a little different behavior? What if we expected a little different outcome? And what if we were able to communicate that? What if we were able to find a way to actually make some of this happen? It is possible with most people, and there's a little bit of clarity here and a little bit better communication. And when we understand it ourselves first, what is it we need? How can we talk about it? How can we bring this to them and with them? And so we'll build out a couple more things that'll work for that as we go across the rest of the morning. Walk the talk. And by the way, I am one of the few people in the United States that's actually certified to do walk the talk stuff. But this one really does start with, the power starts with us. And we have to model the behaviors that we're looking for. And we have to be the best that we can be most of the time and bring that to the party. I know it's easier said than done. But if you're going to be the leaders in your organization, if you're going to be the parents, if you're going to be the managers, if you're just going to be their friend, sometimes that's what it takes, is if they can see it, we've got some place to go. We've got something to start with. If it's not starting with us, if it's not there, what have we really got to talk about? And why are we talking about it? It really, really, really does start here. The next one says stamp out fear. You know, I even see that when I talk to new Mensons. I see that when I talk to Mensons that have been a long time that have never been in anything. You know, sometimes there's a little bit of insecurity, there's a little bit of worry with lots of folks. And you know, one of the common expressions that we hear from people that have never been to a Mensa event? I was scared. What? I was scared. There's this room full of geniuses, and they told me I sort of belong there, but I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it. Really, there is some significant fear around that, including in our local groups. Okay? And so, if we can find a way to make it a little more welcoming and a little more friendly, again, whether it's family, whether it's local group, that we're talking about, whatever it might be, that's going to be important to us too. So we can build that into that. It is power in your praise. And you know what? Most people will do a whole lot for not a whole lot more than, I really appreciate it. You really did a good job. You really helped. But one of the things I've got to tell you is that praise only has value. Well, yes, it needs to be true, and that's really right. So don't snow me with stuff. But I want one more thing, because it won't help you either if you say, good job, Bob, because I'm not cool. But because if I did something really cool, if I did something really good, and you want to see me do it again, you want to see more of that behavior, you want to see more of that activity, really, 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 do pat me on the back. Do let me know you appreciated it. But if I just get good job, Bob, I'm going, that's really so bad. What did I do? So you've got to make it very specific and clear, too. Bob, when you did X, Y, Z, that was so helpful. And guess what's going to happen? I'm going to give you more of it, because now I know. So make sure that the praise is very, very, very specific. What did I do? Why did it help? Why do you appreciate it? Now, the next one says reward, right? Okay. If you're on the X count for a Mensa group, for a local group, how can you reward me? You going to write me a check for $1,000? $10,000, that'd be even better. How can you reward me if you don't have 10 grand to give me, if you don't have $50 to give me?
Publicly recognize us.
How will you do that, Ellen?
Thank you in a newsletter or...
How many of you would just love to see your name in the local group's newsletter and it said, did something cool for the group? How would that make you feel? Would that make you feel bad? This is something that doesn't cost us anything. What else could you do? What else could you do that costs you very little or not? Clark? Anybody in here like certificates? Anybody like their name on the wall? Anybody? Yeah, some of us don't. Some of us can give a flip, and some of us say, oh. So, yes, ma'am.
Ask them what they'd like to do.
You know what? One of the things that almost every one of us in here was taught, one of the things in here that almost every one of us believes is that golden rule thing. What does the golden rule say?
The ones that have the gold make the rules.
Yeah, Fred, we know that one. Oh, that's the other golden rule. And that's really cool. That's a really nice thought. That's a good idea, except for one thing. It don't work. I've got a son, he's 30 now, but I had to learn this as he was growing up and going through. This kid got really cool stuff for his birthday. He got really cool stuff for Christmas. I mean, he got a train set. He got this amazing race car set. He got a telescope. He got a microscope. He got a chemistry set. He got really great books, except they were my favorite books. And he got all this cool stuff, and
He didn't
he didn't like any of it. I ended up, why? Well, this was stuff that I wanted when I was a kid, and I thought it was cool stuff. He didn't care.
What do you buy your wife? Same thing.
Well, yeah,
Rule set.
It took me a long time to learn, but ultimately it was, hey kid, would you write out a list? Don't plan on getting everything on the list, but let's at least start with the list. Now to add a few surprises here and there, I'd find something neat, and I'd add it. And you'd open it and go, this wasn't on the list. I would do this. Forget the golden rule. Use the platinum rule. The platinum rule says, do unto others as they would have you do unto them. They're not us. They don't want what we need much of the time. They don't need what we need. They don't think like us. They don't walk and talk like us. They're not us. So how do you find out what they need, or what they want, or what works for them, or what yanks their chain, or what turns them on, or what makes them feel good, or what motivates their behavior? How do you find out? Sometimes it's that simple. Let's make them, if they're part of the deal, let's make them part of the deal. Platinum rule. Do unto others as they. Rewards don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be difficult. But they should be there. When someone does something special, something helpful, something useful for you, find a way to reward that. And it really can be as simple as, Bob, I really appreciate what you did when you did this and that. And thank you very much. You know what? If I can, you're going to see it again. I'll bet we can figure that out. I'll bet we can.
Bob, I have a question. With regarding the section that we were talking about, stamp out fear, how does one determine the difference between what we interpret as fear and what may be just shyness? Because I've had trouble distinguishing between the two things.
And sometimes, and you're right, Fred, and sometimes there's a very strong correlation and sometimes there isn't. But I'm often going to start with observation, and I'm going to spend a lot of time watching and trying to figure it out. And usually it'll be very apparent fairly quickly. And we're going to do an exercise today that will help us with a little bit of that too. But if we start with the premise that a lot of Mensans are in fact shy and some are extremely shy, you won't be far off the mark 70% of the time.
65% of us are introverted.
In fact, the number is actually probably higher than that, Fred. And so that's a very easy and subtle place for us to start, is just assume that they're shy and that we can welcome them and we can help them. And I'll tell you what, for a lot of folks, that's the make or break, is their first experience when they walk into that meeting room or that dinner or that lunch or that whatever. What happens in that first 30 seconds or that first 5 minutes is their whole Mensa experience. It's the first one they've had. It's the only thing they know. Remember, they may be scared to death. They may be shy to death. They may, whatever it is that they are. If somebody comes up to them and goes, "Hi, Kent, it's nice to meet you. Here's my name tag because I've got one on." And it's going to be the same kind you have. So if I'm at my local meeting, it's a peel and stick. It's not this one. And they get a peel and stick on. Here, would you put your name on this? And by the way, they're all friendly. Just say hello to them and they'll talk to you. It's okay. And really, I want somebody to talk to them the minute they walk in the door. And for us, the XCOM's responsibility. Anybody in that room on the XCOM, they must visit with all of those people. And I don't care if it's your first time or your 10th time or your 30th time, you're going to get some of them. So we're going to notice. You're a human. You're there. You know, one of the biggest complaints about Mensa is, I went to a meeting, and nobody talked to me. They all ignore. Well, 70% of the people in the room are shy. Nobody talks to anybody until they get comfortable and make it come together. There's a problem. So find your extroverts and make it part of their responsibility to help you and help through. And make it part of your excom and teach everybody that it's okay. And all of a sudden you got a group of people that are working and talking and playing together. And what a wonderful thing. But that first 5 minutes when they get there, if they just go stand in the corner and nobody says anything to them for the next hour, the next two, they likely never come back. This is easy. And remember, almost everything that people do, they are doing for a reason. You may never figure it out. And for them, some of it's conscious, some of it's unconscious. They've got a reason. They know something. They may not be able to explain it to you. They may not try it. They may not want to. There's a reason for it. I don't know what. But what if we could figure it out? What if we could meet some of their needs? Let's think about this for a second. How many of you in here, someplace in your life, how many of you here have one of those people that walks around with that theory that nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I'm going to eat some worms kind of. You know some of those people? How many of you in here got somebody in your world, somebody in your life that you've just gotten to the point where you don't want to see them, you don't want to talk to them, you don't want to know them, you don't want to interact with them. Now if they're sitting next to you, don't raise your hand. But how many of you got one of those? Yeah, okay. Here's the deal.
It's called an ex-wife.
But that problem's sort of solved, then I hope.
Divorce.
Maybe. Well, you can always do something about anything, and one of them is you can't leave. That's always a choice. Think about this. You're walking down the hall one way, and all of a sudden, there they are, coming the other way. You see them? Yeah, don't. What's the first thing you do when you see them coming the other way? What are you going to do? Yeah, I turn around and go the other way. Or you duck into the nearest door. Or you pull that newspaper over your head and hope you can get by them without them saying, right? Most of you do go into that avoidance mode, right? If I don't have to talk to them, if I don't have to interact with them, I'm in a better place, right? Is that true for most of you? Yeah. You know what? If you don't get anything else out of this morning except one thing, this is the one I want you to get. If you don't walk away from here with anything else, this is the one I want you to remember. There is one thing that almost everybody on the planet, almost everybody that I know wants. There is one thing that almost everybody I've ever met wants, and I think it can prove it. What's the one thing everybody wants?
Acceptance.
Acceptance is cool, but that's not what I'm thinking about. What else? Acknowledgement is good, but that's not what I'm thinking. Love? And you know what? Love is like that really big answer, and that's what a lot of people tell me about.
Respect.
I don't think that's it. Respect is cool. I think that's a good answer too, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Peace of mind.
Money, peace of mind. Survival,
Smile.
praise, self-esteem. You know what? These are all great answers. Let me tell you what I'm thinking.
Chocolate.
Those are all really, really good answers. But here's what I'm really thinking, and I'll bet when I tell it to you, I can prove I'm right.
To be understood.
What everybody that I know wants, almost everybody that I've ever met, or that's except of course those sociopaths and psychopaths, and it probably accidents there too. You know what they want? They want to be right. Did I just prove that to you or not? They want to be right. Now, here's what's going on with that goofball, that one you don't like, that one you can't stand, that one that's... The first thing is, in their mind, they're going, everybody hates me. Nobody loves me. I'm a dick. And it's all right, because that's who I am. And I'm going to keep proving it, and I'm going to keep being it. And so I'm walking down the hall, and here I am, and there he is, and all of a sudden he turns around and goes the other way. What just happened?
You reinforce
He
it.
proved me right again. And that's what we're doing, is we're proving they're right. What if we broke the paradigm for them? What if all of a sudden they were wrong? What if we found a way to actually start to communicate with that person and to make a difference? Now, I've done this, and I've had 3 group killers in my group, and I'm from South Texas Mensa. I have had 3 group killers, and you know who I mean and what I mean. And I've dealt with all of them, because one of the things we can't be afraid of is conflict, but if we can figure this out, and we can figure out their needs, and we can figure out their garbage, we can make a difference. And we can get a behavior change. In all 3 cases, I got the behavior change that I needed and wanted. And I won't tell you that it's across their life, but I will tell you that whenever they're in my space, they are very well behaved. Because I changed the paradigm. Now, the problem here is they're going to become your best friend. And you don't even want them to be your best friend. But for them, you're going to be, because you're all there is. Everybody else does hate them. You can't win. So, but if instead of, yeah, I hate you, I'm ignoring you, I'm avoiding you, what if it's, Brian, got a small difficulty here, and I really need your help with it. Brian, you know I love you. Let me buy you a beer, man. Can I get some? I need your help. Will you help me? Yes. What else is he going to say? I mean, there's yes or no, and if I do this right, and I get that yes, then it's like, here's the deal. Here's the behavior. Here's why it doesn't work. And here's what we need to do. And if I can do that clearly, if I can be very clear about what the behavior is that I see, and why it doesn't work, and what would work, and I get their buy-in, I actually have a chance of making a difference. Now, when they give me that behavior change, I better notice. Because if they do it, and I don't notice, and I don't say anything about it, guess what? They're going back to the old one. I did it. I gave it to him. He didn't even appreciate it. He didn't even notice. What's the point? But if it's, hey, Brian, remember that thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago? Man, it's really working. Great job. I appreciate it. How do you feel? Yeah. Remember, it's power in your praise. It really does work if you do it well and if you do it right. But we got to put it all together. One of the things that happens, are there any that are still in the room? Are there any of the brochures in here? Okay, we'll get them to make some more and I'll get your name on the list. Thank you. One of the problems is often we just go head on at this stuff if we're going to deal with it. But mostly we've grown up listening to criticism and getting criticism, and we sort of know how to do that because that's what's been modeled for us. That's what's been given to us, and it's not that hard to do. But if you're going to actually make a difference with somebody that's one of those difficult people, somebody that's got some anger issues, somebody that's got something going on, and we do want to try and find that behavior change, there are different ways to do it. And oh, by the way, one of the first things that's really kind of important is whether this is your significant other, or this is a child, or this is one of those difficult people in your local group or someplace else in your life, whether you're their leader or their supervisor, their manager, whatever it might be. And most of you, if you're like me, you hate conflict. You don't want to do with it. You don't want to deal with it. You just want to go, I got to take care of that, but not today because I got to go to a meeting. I'll get to it later. Or, I don't like that, but maybe it'll fix itself. Here's the deal. First time you see an inappropriate behavior, that's the time to take it on, the very first time. Hey, Mike, that behavior is inappropriate because, oh, okay, I didn't know. And sometimes it's absolutely that simple. But you let this go on for months and years, and you know what happens? They've done this behavior 100 times now. Nobody said anything to them about it. They think it's okay. And now it's a built-in habit. Now it's really gonna be difficult to change. Sometimes it absolutely is as simple as the very first time you see it. It's not appropriate because. Not because I don't like it, not because I said so, but here's why it doesn't work. Here's what does work. And sometimes it's as simple as you need to bathe and use deodorant before you come to the local group meeting. Yeah, you guys know that one. The difference between confronting and criticizing. And if you got your notes there, you might want to get a couple of these written down. Criticizing is typically a personal attack. Criticizing is labeling people or stereotyping them. So you're such a goofball, you're a screw-up, you're always doing this, you're always doing that. And by the way, don't use the words always and never when you're talking to somebody, because no matter what, you always, no, I remember one time I didn't. So when you're in the confrontation mode, what you want to do is specifically address the problem, and the problem only. We're not talking about the individual here, we're talking about the problem, we're talking about behavior. So let's focus on the behavior. And criticizing tends to take on a generalization. So you might want to put this under number 2. It tends to be generalized, like, you never do what I need you to do, you're always screwing up, you're always creating a problem, you're always in a bad mood. I can't fix that. I don't even know what you're talking about. Yes, it's generalized. Okay, so it's not specific, and that's what I want under the confrontation. I want to be very specific. So specific tells me exactly what happened and when it happened. Bob, when you walked into the building this morning, and you slammed the door behind you, and you kicked the trash can across the room, and you said, I hate this rotten place, and then you threw coffee against the wall, that is inappropriate behavior. Oh, okay, I didn't know. Nobody told me before. I just been like this for a year. Or, Bob, you got a lousy attitude. No, I don't. Be very, very clear what it is we're talking about. Be able to describe the behavior to me. Be able to tell me why it's inappropriate. And then please help me understand what is appropriate. Because if we can do that, we at least got a chance at it. So, under criticizing, please, we need to let the past go. Do not blame me for past actions. Do not blame me for a year ago when you did this, 3 years ago when you did this, and last month when you did that. You know what? If it was a problem last month, why didn't you talk to me about it last month? You must let that go. Talk to me about what's today. What are we dealing with now? Where are we at now? What's the situation? And let's pick it up, if we can, as soon as it's an issue for us, because it might be really soft and really easy to fix it, really seriously, the first time we see it. Let's just take it and make it better. So the confrontation is, what are my future expectations? And state that. State what your future expectations are. What kind of behavior do you expect to see? If you can't do that, you are spinning your wheels. What's appropriate for this setting? What's appropriate for this situation? Under number 4, criticizing would be something like asking aggressive questions. Aggressive questions are, why do you always screw up? Why don't you ever do anything right? Why can't you do the dishes exactly how I want you to do the dishes? Why don't you keep your room the way I want it? Instead, use statements. Use very clear statements of expected behavior. Okay? Anytime you ask an aggressive question, anytime you push against me, I'm probably going to push back, and I'm going to have answers you don't want to hear. So this is really, really, really about clarity. Finally, on the 5th one, criticizing is you. You do this, you don't do that, you do X, Y, Z. Let's do we and I. Let's do we and I. Here's what I saw. Here's why it doesn't work for me. Can you argue with what doesn't work for me? That's very hard for you to do, because now it's me, and then it's we. Can we do this? Brian, can we do this together? Will you help me do this? And if it's I and we, again, you got a shot. If it's Brian, we're not going anywhere, because if we're going to push back, the anger may get higher. It may get worse. Okay? Can you do that? Can you make it high? Can you make it weak? That's just a matter of practice. That's just a simple approach to what am I thinking and how do I communicate this the best way. Fred.
Wait, you had a question.
That's not.
At some point where, and maybe you have it in your presentation, I'd like to know how you deal with people who lie, you know, like they did something like fairly serious and then they tell a blatant lie, about what happened.
Well, everybody lies. The question is, how do you know and how does it impact on this?
Well, let's
What
say I
they-
know it's a lie and I have to confront them, how can you, I mean, right away, you're saying you're lying.
All right, here's what I'm not going to do. In most cases, I'm not going to look at you and go, you're a liar, I caught you, it's over kind of thing. What I am going to do is frame it in, here's what I saw, here's the situation, here's where we're at. Now, let's take another look at this and talk about it and see if we can do it that way. Some people, I mean, if this is just their frame, then why do they need to be in our world anyway? Because that's always a choice. But if you've got a specific situation that you want to talk about,
Well, it's not relevant to
oh, okay, okay. Because I would say we can talk about it after.
I'm not
we do it.
necessarily, I'm gonna be PTA president next year, and I'm also hoping to learn better how to deal with my husband. So,
And this stuff, it does. It works across several.
Now, when are they gonna have the course called How to Train Your Spouse?
You use phrases like, I need your help. I need to be clear about this. ABC 1, 2, 3. Now, tell me what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, sorts of things, so that we're clear that we're clear.
How about a situation where the person refuses to acknowledge what it is you pointed out? Let's say something as simple as, gee, you're not using capitalization and grammar in your emails to executive management, that it makes it really kind of look like you don't know what you're doing and lessens the impact. And the employee says, well, doesn't matter, content's still there. And if they're not good enough to see that, they shouldn't be executive.
The expectation of our organization is that we use professional communication, and especially professional communication in our written documents. That includes not just our letters and snail mail, that includes our text messages. Our text messages! I did say that. That includes our email. That means that we need to be able to use style books to be grammatically correct, to capitalize, to punctuate properly, because everything reflects on the organization. And it doesn't necessarily stop at that next desk. The organization expects, okay? And by the way, so that we understand what we're talking about here, here's the email that I'm talking about, and we need it capitalized, we need appropriate punctuation, we need appropriate... Does that sound like it might get us a little closer? Because how do they deny it?
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah, and you know, they do have to want to cooperate, but that's also a part of the terms of employment in my mind. So,
if they wanna play in the party, they wanna stay and participate in the party, or
But-
they can choose, they don't wanna play by those expectations and those rules, and
but it is about clarity, and it is about expectations, and I'm going to be as upfront and as clear about that as I possibly can. And again, I'm back to the first time I see it. Here's what we expect. Here's what it has to be. Here's why it has to be. And then if they don't want to play, we got a different problem. But if I let that go on for 5 years, and then I go, oh, you know what? This isn't okay now. Well, I created that one
that's
myself.
not fair.
So, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering about the doesn't work for me phrase. That has been around for a while, and it seems to me, it's my impression, that people are hardened to it, that they reinterpret it as soon as it's said, like, that doesn't work, or that's wrong. Remember you were talking about right versus wrong, or being right. So, I wonder if that's what you think about that.
What I need to understand is what's the relationship, and is it a business relationship, is it an organizational relationship, is it an interpersonal relationship, and how much do they care about me? In lots of cases, they don't give a flip. And I know that and I understand that. So that's part of how I structure the argument and look for the behavior changes. Why is it inappropriate? If it's about you and me and our relationship, I'm hoping you care how I feel. But again, if I start with, this isn't okay for me, you can't argue with that. So now whatever I get from you in feedback tells me what you think of the relationship. So if I ask you, did you do that because you really wanted to hurt me? What comes next tells me everything I need to know about this relationship. Because the truth is, you probably didn't know you were hurting me. You probably weren't doing it on purpose to get to me. But if you were, I'd like to know that. Because now I have another decision to make. And maybe we can find creates this kind of problem inside the membership. Because it makes people quit. Because people stop coming. Because they... And I got to put it sometimes straightforward in that term. This is inappropriate behavior because this is what the outcome is when this behavior happens.
And that would be a we.
Now, we, maybe, if I'm the look-sec, I'm just doing it. I'm not putting the XCOM into the middle of it.
Okay.
But if we need that kind of support, then we have to have a meeting and the XCOM has to get behind it, or the PTA board or whatever. Okay, but normally, it's just, I'm going to be strong enough and tough enough. If, remember I said this walk the talk thing? It starts with me. They got to respect and believe in me first. If they don't respect me, nothing I say is going to matter.
Right.
So I really do have to live it. I really do have to stand up for it and be it. And if I can do that, and if I can believe that about me, then I got a shot at least of it happening.
It seems like what you're talking about is mostly for physical proximity conversations. Can these be adapted for a telephone conversation?
Of
Or
course.
even an email communication of some sort?
Fred, clarity is everything. Behavior is what we're after. And I can communicate sometimes better in writing if I don't just keyboard it and then push the send button. If I'm doing it in writing, please, in almost every case, unless it's a crisis or an emergency, I'm going to write it, but it's not going anywhere tomorrow because I'm putting some of my space in this first in terms of brain and time. And for me to calm down a little bit and for me to get a little bit further away from it, and then I can read it again, then I can, and I promise you there's going to be an edit, because something I said when I was pissed is a little bit different when I'm a day away from it, when there's something else now, and I'll take out a paragraph, I'll change the line, I'll add something else, and then, is this clear? Does it say what I really wanted to say? Does it make sense in terms of what it is that has to happen here? And when all that's there, then I can push send and away we can go. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
When you're talking about people who have like the generalized negative attitude, I find it's very difficult to come up with a specific example. It's very easy to say, you have a bad attitude.
No, I don't!
Exactly. So what
are you talking about?
What are some specifics? Because obviously that's
Yeah, but that's exactly my point is, here's what I saw happen.
Well, what,
Here's why it's not okay. Bob, when you walked in the building this morning and slammed the door behind you and the picture fell off the wall and then you threw your coffee cup and broke the mirror. But sometimes that's the hard part, but that's what we have to do. And that's the difference, because mostly what we do is generalize. Mostly we go, it's not okay because you're screwing up and it's because you got a bad attitude. Those don't get us any place. I don't have a bad attitude. I just don't.
Yeah. What about like the naysayer? It's hard because you want people to talk, you want people to have input,
Well,
but
you
person
get
who
past
is,
them. So, for example, if there was somebody like that, instead of, you're butting up against that.
Right.
You don't butt. You say, "Why? You really seem really upset. What are you upset about?" That puts them in a different place, and they can say, "Well, I'm not upset." They go, "Well, it seems like you're upset because I perceive that you're in describing behavior," and then there could well be something that upsets them. It could be something deep. It could be something that happened in traffic. But by having them respond that way, you're not putting them in the defensive.
Good answer, thanks. Sometimes they just don't know. They don't know what they look like, they don't know how they feel, or they don't know what's going on. I mean, a lot of it is unconscious, and just by asking the question. Now, on the bottom of page 2, where it says how to diffuse and calm a very angry person, a couple of tips, a couple of techniques. I actually have 8, and the first one is number 9. So, what I really want to happen, what I want you to remember, what I want you to take back with you, what I want you to be able to put to work. When you're in a situation with somebody that's really angry, that's really loud, that's really angry, what I want you to do is go into not the react mode, because we're going to push back, we're going to get loud, we're going to get angry too, it's going to get worse, it's going to escalate. What I want you to do, when you're confronted by somebody like that, is I want you to go low and slow. Go low and slow. first thing is you're not aggravating the situation. You're not creating the pushback, and maybe, just maybe, they'll start coming along too. And often that will happen. Not always. And then we're going to have to put a couple of the techniques to work here and do some analysis. But
So next when I go that use that technique, low and slow, they get even more infuriating. Like you are patronizing everything.
I may be patronizing.
Bob, what you're doing is you're proving to them that they can't push your buttons.
And that's what it is for me. And Fred, thank you. It's about my personal control and not letting them get my goat. And how many of them, honest to God, now in all these people around you, that are these people that we think we're talking about that are not sitting next to you, that one of their highlights of their life is to get your goat, to get to push your button, to get to make you go over the edge, to do that to you, for you, with you. That's where their fun comes. I'm not kidding. All right, number one. In this situation where you got somebody that's angry, somebody that's difficult, the first thing I want you to do is listen. Really listen. Really listen. Because sometimes that's all they want. Sometimes that's all they need is for somebody to hear this story. I mean, that's all it is. Because nobody ever does. Why? Because that's who they are. Nobody ever does.
Don't you have to?
Number two, and this is really, 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 really important. Gauge your distance with this person. Gauge the distance, the physical distance, and if you at all feel threatened, if you feel in danger, you have a different decision to make anyway. This may not be one that you can fix, but you may certainly want to put a little more distance between you. You may want to put a counter between you. You may want a table between you. You may want a building between you. But gauge the distance and pay attention to where you feel safe in this situation instead of do not put yourself at risk. Number three, if you can, sit down. If you can get them to sit down too, that's really good. But if you can, sit down. Because if we're in a confrontational mode, and I'm here, what do we got going on? But if I'm a little bit further away, and I'm in the sit mode instead of the stand face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball, is that a little different? It's a lot different. Again, don't put yourself at risk, but do know you can start to diffuse simply by the change in posture. So number three, if you can sit down. Number four, find something to agree with them about. Find something to agree with them. They expect you to argue with it. They expect you to push back. They expect you to fight. Find something to agree with and see what happens. I hear you. You make a good point. Can I say that?
So is that also establishing common ground?
What it is establishing is that I'm paying attention to them and I'm giving them some time. And then I'm not going to argue with them right off the bat. So they're not getting any of the things they were expecting. And maybe all by itself, again, that's enough. Maybe not. In a lot of cases, there's still going to be more push, there's still going to be more anger, there's still going to be more stuff. But at least it gives me a starting point, and it lets me continue to gauge it, lets me continue to work with it, and at least I'm not escalating it, and one more time, I'm not letting them get to me. I'm going to keep me safe, but I'm not letting them go and make my brain go in a spin. I'm not letting them make me angry. I'm not letting them make me upset. You can't do that to me. It's not okay. And if you can do that to me, we got a different thing to work out, and I got some work to do with me too. But I'm not letting most people around me upset me, and it's not okay in my life. You don't get to do that.
And when you say I hear you, they feel heard, and you're not agreeing. I hear you doesn't mean I agree with the thing you're saying.
I hear you, and I understand what you said. I understand your point.
Well, I was just gonna say that if you don't necessarily want to say you agree with them.
Oh no, I may never agree with you. I'm not telling you you're right.
You started out saying find something you agree with them about. There may not be anything in that exchange, and so this other technique of saying I hear you, or sometimes I would say, let me see if I understand what you're saying. Did you just tell me blah blah blah?
Right.
And then you repeat it back so that they know that you heard what they said. But
And I understand what you said. I understand why you feel like that. Number five, empathize with them. If there's any way you can do this, if there's any way you can find something about what they got going on, I understand why you feel like that. Now, their kid just died, I'm not using that one, because I don't understand how they feel. But in most, I understand. We got your bill wrong, I understand how you feel. See what we can do about it. You got there and the meeting was over, understand how you feel. Find something that maybe you can soften this, and maybe again you're looking for that agreement, you're looking to change their mindset. And it's not hard to do if we give them a little stuff. Remember, really, they're expecting the pushback. Number 6. This is kind of hard sometimes, but you have to learn to sort the real from the emotional. And sometimes there's a real reason. Sometimes there's a real problem. Sometimes there's a real nightmare here. And if we can pinpoint that, maybe we can solve it. Lots of times we have that kind of power, that authority, that ability. Sometimes it really is all emotional. We can't fix their emotional. Remember, we're not going to change their personality. It's way beyond our power. It's way beyond our ability. But if we know it's emotional, at least maybe we can bring it down a little bit. And at least we don't push it up by reacting to it and then take us there. Yes, ma'am?
One problem I have, and I suspect many medicines would have, is that when there is some kind of an issue, I go into problem-solving mode and I get go in my head and think, well, how can we fix this? And if you start talking to somebody who doesn't work that way, if they're emotional about something, it can drive them crazy. I mean, I've been told that many times. They have to go, so you say you can't fix their emotions, but you can relate to them. That's what I've been training myself to do, is to relate to them at the emotional level. Forget the logical part of it for a while, and deal with the emotions.
Sometimes if you remember, they're not looking for an answer, especially yours. They're not looking for a solution. All they're looking for is someone to hear them. And sometimes it's that simple. Yes, sir.
Forgive me for going back just one. Is it ever okay to empathize with somebody if they're complaining about somebody else?
Well, since you used the word ever, I'm going to...
Because I've heard the word never.
I could see an occasion where most of the time I really want to avoid the gossip. Most of the time I really want to avoid the stories. The only time a story should be coming to me is if I'm in that chain of command and they need to tell me something for some reason. But if I'm feeling like it's gossip, my simple response to that is I don't listen to gossip, I don't do gossip, we don't have gossip. So it's really a question then of what the intent is and what the necessity is. So if they're just grumping about somebody, I don't need it in my world, I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am?
Sometimes with that situation, I'll take it off the individual. Like if they're saying, man, so-and-so always makes me angry when, I don't know, whatever I'll say, yeah, it is hard to deal with people when they, so I try to get it back to a general. I understand.
Without using a name.
Right. To take it off, well, yeah, we all can have that behavior sometimes, and see if that can diffuse the situation.
Number 7 on my list, you can ignore it. You can ignore it sometimes. Now I know that flies in the face of some of the things we've just said, but once in a while it is the right answer. Sometimes the right answer for me is, I'll need to hear it, walk around the journal, and leave that setting. So sometimes that's the very best answer when it's a significant other or somebody that's important to me. I do not want this to escalate. I do not want to fight with you now. When you're ready, I'll be ready too. But in the meantime, I'm leaving. Sometimes it's the very best answer. And number 8, do something about this if you can. What I really don't like to hear is, I can't do anything about that. It's against company policy. The rules say, God, I hate those things. Don't tell me what you can't do. Tell me what you can do. And remember, sometimes they're right. And sometimes whatever they want or need is outside of my authority. And part of it is, too, just asking them what they want. Because sometimes, you know what, they really only did want somebody to hear them. They don't want a free membership. They don't want you to give them a new shirt. They just wanted you to hear them. But even if you can't fix it, don't tell me what you can't do. Tell me what you can. I'll make a phone call. I'll get an answer for you by 3 o'clock. I'll send an email. I'll check on this for you. I'll make the connection. I'll have somebody call you that can do. Don't tell me what you can't do, because I don't care. That's not helping either of us. Tell me what you can do. And again, we've gone a lot further in maybe making this ameliorated, smoothing it, keeping it from becoming that nightmare that it was about to, that it was, actually. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just add that the one thing that infuriates me most when it comes to somebody is if they say, I do apologize, because that means they're not going to follow. I do apologize. Who says that?
Well, the next thing I want to hear at the very least, Karen, is, and here's what we're going to do. Or here's how we're going to fix it. Or here's the next step. So you're exactly right. It's not enough by itself. It's just like, it's not enough to say good job. You got to get me into some specific. So help take me there. Okay. Let's take a look at the next page. And here's what I want to do. Here's a list of about 8 or 9 bullets. And on the left-hand side it says brings people closer, and on the right-hand side it says pushes people away. And if you've got a pen or something, a pencil, I'd really like to jot a couple of notes down here. What I'd like to do is take just a couple of minutes and make some notes for yourself. What, and I'm talking about nonverbal cues here now, and I'm talking about some of the verbal cues that surround that, but I'm talking about presence here. So what are some of the things that you do, and maybe unintentionally, in fact mostly unintentionally, maybe subconsciously or unconsciously, and mostly it's that too. But what are some of the things you do that bring people closer? What are some of the things that push them away? So for a simple example, for face, what do you do with your face? Yeah, you smile! And what do you do with your face that pushes them away? Someone said, drink your teeth or bang your teeth. Alright, so what I'd like you to do is take just a couple of minutes and see if you can't come up with something for each of those items in each of those columns of what can you do in this situation that would bring somebody closer? What can you do that pushes them away? Serves and gets 5 minutes. Everybody deserves 5 minutes of my time. All of you know somebody that the way they treat the world is, you got 5 words or 5 seconds, go. There are personalities that are built like that. That's their expectation, that's how they operate and work through the world. That's fine in some of the business settings. It is definitely not okay in a local group setting. It's probably not okay in you families either. With time, they get some. And if I don't have 5 minutes to give you now, I have a phone call that I have to be on in 2 minutes. I have a meeting that I must be at. Can we do this at 4:30? And schedule it and act, you know what, if it's important, we'll get it scheduled and we can deal with this. But everybody deserves 5 minutes. I gotta be willing to do that with them. And if I'm willing to do that, share it, yeah, I got a chance. But that 5 words, 5.
They have a real hard concept, recognizing that they're wrong about something, or that what they want to do cannot possibly be done. And, it's always, I'm not the problem, you're the problem, because you don't understand what I'm saying.
And Fred, all we can do is all we can do, and all we can do is the best we can do. And the techniques are the strongest ones that I know, and they work for me in most settings. And remember, I underlined and highlighted the word almost. And so there are some pathologies, there are some psychologies, and there are some difficulties that we can't fix. But at the very least, if I'm aware of that, I know that. Remember where we started today? It's not my job to fix them, and I may or may not. I can't change their personality. I may be able to change their behavior, but what I can do is I cannot let them get my goat. So more than anything else, this is about my reaction to that stuff. Okay, let's see what you got. All right, we talked about face. What can you do with your eyes to bring them in?
Eye contact.
Eye contact. Eye contact, open and engage. Now let me say this. it's not okay to stare at them. Because we're gonna get into this battle. And we will. And when it becomes that, we got a whole different thing going. 75, 80% eye contact, that's good. Okay? And they want some, because the alternative is, on the other side of it, is averted eyes. And that's one of the problems that we have inside Mensa, by the way. Remember, we got 70% extreme, well, I'm not going to use the word extreme, I'm going to erase that one. We have 70% introverts, though, by definition. And so some of them don't like to make eye contact. Well, what happens if we're talking like this, and the whole conversation goes like this? That's quite difficult, and some of us are like that. So some of us need to make the little effort to actually make some of that eye contact and give it to them. But really it is about 75 or 80%. So you don't stay with them, you gotta go away sometimes and then come back.
Yeah, the way to tell an extrovert fancy from an introvert is that when you're talking to them, an extrovert will stare at your shoes.
I'm stealing that one.
Bob, if you're dealing with somebody who is uncomfortable with eye contact, you can go back to what you said earlier about, sitting down next to them so that you can be talking on the same level.
That's a great
Feel
point.
engaged.
That's a great point. And in fact, I'm gonna let you volunteer with me in a minute, okay? So if you'll help me in a minute. Yeah. We're gonna do this. That's right. Gestures. What kind of gestures bring people in? Palm up, palms out, open. Yeah. Absolutely. What pushes them away? It's not on the camera, is it, Cynthia? I'm not telling you what Vic did. But you can guess. Yeah, you can guess. That Boy Scout salute.
It wasn't this finger.
No, it was digital. Yeah, this one too. This one too. And now, one of the things about this stuff that's really, 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 really important though, is when you start working with this and you start picking up on it, the truth is, this doesn't always mean they're closed. This doesn't always mean they're in protect mode. What else could it mean? They're closed. And so when you start thinking about and working with this stuff, you can't just pick up on one signal. You really got to start to put it in a package. What are 2 or 3 things that are going on here? So if they're doing this, and they're doing this, and they're doing this, I got a pretty good clue. But if this is all I got to start looking at what's going on with the eyes, what's going on with the mouth. So it's a package deal, not just one thing.
And if you're facing the door.
And if they're facing the door, sitting behind the desk, or watching outside, or what?
Because someone and they're facing the door, they're subconscious.
Oh yeah, they're always paying attention to what's going on at the door. And one of the things, if you've got an office and you've got your desk set up, your desk shouldn't be facing the door. It should be turned sideways, so when people walk by, they can't automatically engage you and you're not engaging them. If you're ever going to get anything done, your eyes shouldn't be at the door. What about posture? What kind of posture brings them in?
Forward.
Playing well.
Forward or relaxed, or if I'm sitting down. If I'm sitting down, leaning in a little bit, right? Paying attention. Open hands on my desk. What pushes them away? Yeah, fists on my desk. Arms crossed. How about this? How about if you're talking to me and I'm doing this? I don't give a flip. Go ahead, Sarah. What do you want to say? I don't give a flip. So some of it's as simple as how we're holding ourselves, how we're presenting ourselves, what we're doing with our bodies. So we need to be a little bit aware of that. Voice volume. What brings them in?
Quiet.
Softer. Remember when I said go low and slow? Can you hear me in the back? No. I'll do this for you. But, sir, can you hear me? And you know what? When I do this, are you paying a little more attention? Yeah. Because I can do this all day long. Yeah, I can do this too, because I got like, then what am I doing? So modulated, a little bit lower, a little bit quieter will bring them in. So obviously what pushes them away? Yeah. And we need to pay for attention to this, and for ourselves sometimes we need a little help. Because what happens to me, and there are a couple things, and one is I think my hearing's going a little bit now as I'm getting a little bit older. And the other thing I know is I really do have this big voice, and I'm used to filling rooms and auditoriums and stuff, and I don't know when I'm doing it. It's just, it happens. So with the people that are actually really close to me, what I do is I give them permission. I go, you know what, when I'm getting really loud and the whole room hears me, but we're sitting here at the table having dinner in the restaurant, just do this. And I give them a built-in, just do this. Instantly, I'll know what they mean. Instantly, I'm back to where I'm supposed to be. Because I don't know, I did it. It just happens. Some of this stuff is subconscious, and we need to start paying attention for ourselves, about ourselves. Voice pace. I'm going to give you this. Remember I said low and slow again. I'm thinking about slower and modulated here. Okay? Rather than talking really fast, because I can do that. And I can talk at 1,200 words a minute. And you can hear me at 1,200 words a minute too, but probably doesn't make you real happy most of the time. So a little bit slower, a little bit lower, we're all good there. Voice pitch. I want you to think about that radio kind of voice, that TV broadcaster kind of voice, because the truth is you all have good voices. You just need to put them to work. You can do that. And you know the one that always drives you crazy, at least it always drives me crazy, and especially when I hear this on the phone, but even there, no reason for that, is there?
It's gender-based, I think.
It isn't there. You can get some guys that do this stuff. And some of it is gender-based, but some of it's learned, and some of it's built in, because it's not necessary. So what I'm asking you is in your world to simply pay attention to your voice and find that comfort voice for you and for them.
People who have tenor have a problem built in.
Also, if you smile while you're talking to someone on the phone, it comes through.
Absolutely does. And she said, well, if you smile when you're talking to somebody on the phone, in fact, and I'll take it a step further, and I do teach some strategic telemarketing and telesales sorts of things. And so the couple of things I do is I get them literally to put a mirror at their workstation, and if it's at all possible, I want them standing up. And when you're doing it, as long as you're not living on the phone and you're not doing 8 or 10 hours a day, you can do this, because if I'm doing this, it comes across, but if I got that mirror and I get that smile and I know what I'm going to say, and I have a completely different voice, and I have a completely different pace, and I have a completely different command of the conversation. So when I have a really important telephone call, first I'm going to script it. Then I'm going to make sure I go into it with that smile into my voice. And I'm going to stand up and do it, because I'm only going to spend 3 or 4 minutes standing up in most cases anyway. And it really does make a difference in the presentation here and then here. Touch. This one's real problematic, because I'm a toucher, and so are lots of other people, and we like to do it and don't even know we're doing it.
Don't make some mistakes.
You gotta not. In today's world, especially in the business world, you can't touch them much above the elbow. From the elbow to the hand is about all you're allowed, and you even better have permission for that. But that's why we have hug dots. You don't be hugging people that don't want you touching them. And because I'm a high involver, because I am who I am, I touch people all the time and don't know it. And I'm willing to bet if I ask Brian, actually when I came around there and talked to you that first time, did I touch you on the shoulder? You don't remember?
Yes.
I did, didn't I? I didn't do it on purpose. I just did it because it's how I am. And I have to pay attention to that, because I could create a serious problem for him and me, or anybody and me, just because I did it. So be careful about it and make sure that it's safe. And when it's your family feed, you know what you're doing with your family, so that's your call. But, yes ma'am?
Question, how do you tell somebody that you work with, like say your superior, that you don't want to be touched? And they keep arguing with you when you say that.
You go back to the behavior and be very clear about what's appropriate and inappropriate for you. And so it's not that, well, just try this. When I am touched, it makes me feel. That's not okay. Today when you walked in the office and you put your hand on my shoulder, I expect you were being nice, but it makes me feel.
Yeah, I did that. He just said, oh, but you're like, I feel like you're my daughter.
And the response to that is, I'm not your daughter. Do not treat me like your daughter.
I know.
All right. Let me borrow it. What's your name?
David.
All right, David. For territory, this one's a little bit tricky. David, are you comfortable? All right. Handshake distance, we're comfortable. Now, and one of the problems is, too, that we're dealing with lots of different things in terms of gender, in terms of culture, in terms of everything. So we need to pay attention to that, too. But with David and I, we're fairly the same culture, we're about the same size, about the same everything, so it's a, yeah. So, this okay, this good? Really close.
David's chin went straight up in the air and his chest came straight out.
And he's playing with it, and that's okay, but that's, all right, that good? All right. How's that feel?
A little more, well, shall I say distance?
Yeah. Here's the thing. The most appropriate place for most people is simply handshake distance. And that gives me the setting right there, handshake distance. Now, you can even watch this happen, and especially you can watch it happen at a party or something. And with a man and a woman, do they get this distance, and then he takes a half a step in, and she takes a half a step back, and he takes a half a step, and they'll go backwards around the whole room. So find that appropriate distance, and the same problem is the distance the other way. All I did was take a half a step back, and yet it's too far away. It makes it feel cold. It does have that distance kind of thing. But the very best thing of all, because of lots of the cultures and stuff we deal with, is let them set the distance, okay? Because in the Far East, for example, this is way too close. So that handshake distance will get me in trouble. And in the Middle East, this is way too far, because they want to be. And if I don't let them do it, I've created the same problem. So for alternate cultures, really the best answer is for territory, is let them set the space and you figure out how to be okay with it and be comfortable with it. But mostly across our society, it is handshake distance. And by the way, I'm not telling you got to shake hands, but if you do, please shake hands. This is not okay. I don't care if you're male or female, but you know, did he help? Give him a round of applause. All right, give him a round of applause. Oh, you know what? Clock on the wrist said,
It's time.
we talk.
Lunch is serving.
Did, you know, for those of you that need a sign-up sheet, I will find one. Listen. Okay, there is a sign-up sheet. We'll get it around the room. For those of you that need it, want to put your name and your organization on it. And for those of you that need a handout or whatever, I'll get them up here. Hey, take a couple of these things back, give them a try, put them to work. I really appreciate your coming. I really appreciate you staying with me. This is